and Larry Tentarelli, the long-term bull. Welcome
Dale, good
back.
morning.
Welcome
good
back,
morning.
Larry.
Thank you.
It's good to hear your voice.
It's good to be heard, my friend.
Yeah, and I know you've been riding the bull as long as I've been talking to you here on F.A.C.E. We're probably working on a year or two since we've been talking to each other, right?
Exactly. I was just thinking about that. It's over a year.
Cool. All right. Well, why don't you share your screen? And I have some questions for you because I haven't done this before, but I think we may be approaching a corrective, at least a corrective period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to ask you about your, I know you're going to show things and you look at your moving averages, what your money management exit strategies will be should I be guessing correctly in the next couple of weeks that things are going to start heading lower. I think most people think a 5 to 10% correction is reasonable. So, okay, let's start with the S&P.
Sure. And historically, a 5 to 10% correction is pretty reasonable. And I forget the stats. I think it's once a year on average, there's a 5 to 10% correction in the market. So, 3 to 5% is pretty customary. 5
Right,
to
we've
10%.
had many of them.
Yeah, and it's not out of the ordinary in these longer term uptrends for that to happen. So, markets are volatile. Bond yields, I think bond yields and the Fed right now are the big wild card. And I've got to tell you, up until about 6 months ago, I didn't really pay attention to any of the Fed statements, FOMC, things like that. But I do now because the market moves so fast off what the Fed says. You really do have to keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah. And the swings, especially this week, where we had that big sell-off because of Afghanistan on Monday, and it came back to close higher on the day, and then no follow-through yesterday, gave most of that, gave even more of it back, to me was kind of a negative sign that Monday at the close, it sure looked like we were going to have, a continuation move. So that didn't happen yesterday.
You're right. And I think a lot of people are just trying to get squared up ahead of the Fed today because nobody wants to get caught on the wrong side. I think right now I'm about 18% cash, which is it's higher than average. I generally run 5 to 10%, but at 18%, I'm not, overly cautious. I've just taken some money off the table, booked some gains. I sold some of my weaker positions, but not a major. I'm not if a 5 to 10% correction happens, it's just part of the market, but I'm not battening down the hatches right now. 4,200 to 4,250. So if you look on the S&P chart, so as long as the S&P stays over 42 to 4250, you can see there's a lot of support in that 4250 range. Here's 33, 57, 38. So as long as we stay over 42 to 4250, then I would just see any pullback, and that would be what, 5%.
Yeah.
Then I would see that as just a a corrective pullback. But a lot has to do with what happens with what the Fed says and what bond yields do, because bond yields definitely have been leading the bus right now. So I just wouldn't want to see any major volatility in bond yields, because a major move higher wouldn't be good for stocks overall if it was a quick move, and a quick move down would tell me that the market thinks there's a slowdown coming, and that wouldn't be great either. So I'd like to see bond yields hold over that 1.12 level.
Okay. And okay, so either or, the best case scenario for bond yields is sideways.
Exactly.
Okay.
I would say if it can stay over, let's call it 1.28 and 1.5. If it can stay somewhere in here, I think that's the best place to be. Anything outside of that, and I think the market wants to get repositioned.
Okay. So not too hot, not too cold.
Exactly.
You want the right kind, the porridge. Okay. Yep. So sector wise, what's happening for you?
I'll tell you what I've really been moving into a lot over the past 8 weeks or so is healthcare, and I've moved into it pretty strongly on the website.
Is that defensive, Larry?
It's a little bit of both. It's mid-cycle, so it's got some growth characteristics, but it is considered more defensive. And the thing about healthcare is it's really outside of this whole inflation
Yeah,
cyclical debate, because these cyclical stocks, I mean, based on what day, you can have a 5 or 10% move pretty quickly. So the thing that I like about healthcare is it's got some growth, it is defensive, and I think that regardless, to a degree, it's outside of this whole inflation debate. So a couple
yeah,
positions. So I've got Eli Lilly, that's had a nice breakout. I've got Regeneron, that's had a nice breakout, and that was trading higher pre-market. HCA, which is more in the now HCA is much more defensive. They're in the
like an
hospital side of it.
HMO.
No, I think they're a hospital provider.
Oh, okay.
So, they operate hospitals, is my understanding.
What
And
was
you can
that
see,
gap? Earnings? That
yeah,
big gap up?
yeah, that
Okay.
was right after earnings. But you can
All
see, I
right.
mean, if you just look at the uptrend, it's been pretty solid. So
Yeah.
healthcare, there's a lot of other like Dexcom is a little bit more of a growth oriented. This was after earnings, pulled back
Right.
right into the 20-day. But overall, healthcare, we keep coming back to these FANG stocks, and I'll tell you what, it's the FANG stocks aren't exciting, but they just keep getting it done. If you
Yeah.
look at Facebook, and if you look at how Facebook has held the 50-day, Google is probably the strongest of the FANG
Yeah.
stocks that I don't own, and it's just held this 50-day. And every time I go to buy Google, something like Shopify will come up, or AMD, something that's a little more exciting, and then Google just keeps going. So I think these FANG stocks are still set up well.
Well, okay, you skipped one.
Which one?
Amazon.
I've got that one, and it's not doing too good.
No,
So
okay. So
yeah,
the surprise to me is Amazon was such a darling, and I don't know
yeah.
the percentage of market cap in the Nasdaq 100, but it barely budged the Nasdaq 100 with that weakness, and it still looks vulnerable to me. I think the highs are in for a while. So let me
It
ask
could
you
be.
this: I
Yeah.
think the whole market hinges on Apple,
Okay.
and Apple made a new high yesterday
Yeah.
and reversed. And if we take out that 140, I think the market's in trouble.
Yeah. I think you're right on 140. I think you're
Okay.
right, and there's a lot of support right above 140. But no, I think you're right. Now, Apple, it did make a new high yesterday. It pulled back a little bit. The
Yeah.
overall market. But like I say, in an FOMC week, it's pretty
Yeah.
normal for people to square up ahead of that. But yeah, now
Is it the
Apple,
largest market cap stock out there?
it is. Yeah.
See, so that's that's going to be the ball game then, I think.
Yeah, and then I think Microsoft is number 2 at 2.2.
Yeah.
But Microsoft, and I don't have Microsoft. And like I say, every time I look at these stocks,
Yeah.
you think, okay, well, it's Microsoft. How much more can it go?
Right.
But Nvidia's been strong, Google, Microsoft, but Amazon's been weaker. I've got Amazon. I'm just going to have to ride it out for now, unless they hit my
Okay.
stop. Amazon's pretty oversold. It's got about a 29 daily RSI, but it's still been weaker than I'd like to see it.
Yeah, you would think it would try and eat into the gap a little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got a ton of support down here, but it tried to break out here. They couldn't get it done, and it's just right back into the range.
Larry, what was your line in the sand in the S&Ps again? It's for my
4,200 to 4,250 in the near term.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so anything over that would just say to me, okay, normal correction. Anything
Right.
below that would start to, raise a red flag for me.
Okay, got it. All right. Anything else? Utilities have been leading the way. But go ahead. You want to show the banks?
Yeah, I like the banks. So here's the thing. So bond yields are what, 127. So where's the downside for bond yields? I think if
the double
things,
bottom.
well, that's one place. But I think for whatever reason, if the market really started to smell out a slowdown, and if the Fed, here's the thing, and people get confused, if the Fed announces that they're going to start to tighten, people assume that bond yields go up, and they always don't. So if the Fed starts to tighten, that's generally considered that they're going to slow down the economy, which means that bond yields come down.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of this move has been from the market starting to anticipate it. At some point, the Fed has to dial it back, but I think they're still going to stay with that, mid to late 22 target. So I think on the low side, bond yields could maybe come down to the 1% level.
Okay.
But at some point they got to start to head higher. And if you look at where we are at 127, I think there's a lot more upside in bond yields than there is downside. And I think that the banks, Wells Fargo's been the strongest of the majors. Then you've got Bank of America, but the brokers, and here's the key thing. So if you look at Goldman and if you look at Morgan Stanley, the key thing is that as bond yields started to come down, because bond yields topped out, what did we just look at in May, right?
Yeah.
Bond yields have been rolling over since May, but these banks and brokers actually showed some relative strength and
They held up well.
Out. Yeah. And I mean, if Goldman's 7 times earnings and bond yields are, 1.20, then I think longer term. So I expect some choppiness today. But I think I like the banks.
Okay. All right. The higher yields would support banks, especially if it happens with yields widening, a steepening curve, right?
That would be the best scenario. If for some reason bond yields and the market's really having a tough time with it right now. And I saw a post today, wrong chart, but I saw a post today that the Bank of America came out and they said that they think yields could go to 2% or they could go to 1%. So basically Bank of America, and they're, as big as it gets, they've basically said that they don't really have a strong read on where bond yields are going.
Yeah.
But, yields have rolled over, but then you take a look at Wells Fargo and it's broken out. So I think, 14 times earnings. I think that the banks at some point yields go higher, and I like the banks there.
Do you know what Bobby Axelrod is doing in the banking sector?
Bobby is, I'm waiting for that show to come back on. That's one of my favorite. I love that show.
Everyone loves it.
That's a great show. Yeah, Bobby Axelrod's the best. He would be a cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah, wouldn't it be? I'd like to work at X Capital for a while. Anyway.
Oh boy, yeah, sure.
Anyways, not that I don't love ForexAnalytix, but it'd be an experience to work with Dollar and all those guys. Anyway, kind of reminds me of the floor. Okay,
sure.
so Nucor, is that cyclical?
Oh yeah, Nucor is very cyclical. So I think the infrastructure, because obviously infrastructure, that's the big buzzword with all the progress that they made last week. And I've been watching these material stocks, I've been watching these industrials, and I think the steel stocks, for people that are looking to possibly trade, the infrastructure trade, I think it's through the domestic steel stock. So Nucor, it's the biggest, and they're in the S&P 500. So the key thing with Nucor, it had this big breakout, is trying to figure out, at what. So I don't have Nucor. I've got it on my radar screen, and I know what I'm looking for. We'll just see. So Nucor's been more volatile.
You want to buy it at 112 at the previous highs, 110, 112, right?
Right around there would be ideal. If they could bring it right down around 110, 112, this 20-day would come up. Cleveland Cliffs, so they're smaller, but this uptrend has been easier to buy into, because basically anytime it's pulled back, like even where it is here, based on what your time frame is, anytime this is pulled back, it's been viable. That's a $12 billion market cap. Then you take a look at something like Caterpillar, and Caterpillar's a tough stock.
Looks ugly.
It's a tough stock. So if someone just uses the 200-day and they wanted to call the risk, 200 to 205, then you've got 4% of risk or so. But this is a tough chart. If I were looking at those big industrials, Deere is a much better chart.
Yeah.
Now they've got earnings coming up, so you don't know what's going to happen there. And I don't think of Deere. I think of Deere more as an agriculture stock, whereas Caterpillar, is
Yeah.
the infrastructure. But Deere,
So could China's slowdown be part of Cat's problems?
sure, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. And anything, the precious metals took a hit. They got cheaper, GDX and some of the gold stocks.
I'm still
They don't
staying
look
away
ready
from
to
those.
me. Huh?
No, I'm still staying away from those. The one that had looked the best, Franco Nevada, as far as where it's trading on the chart versus all the moving averages. If
Yeah.
if I had to buy a gold stock tomorrow for the way that I run these trends, this would be the stock. Because if you look at that over 3 moving averages versus something like Barrick Gold, which is all the way down here. But the
Yeah.
problem I think with the gold miners, and I've been doing this for a long time, I still can't figure out bond yields and gold miners, because for a while they were inversely correlated. Yields went up, miners went down, vice versa. But then we started seeing bond yields went down and gold miners went down. So I just,
Yeah.
this is one of those, I just rather focus on, my tech stocks and my banks, and the miners have
Anything,
been a tough read.
anyway, I had I had a very interesting guest yesterday. Anything you like in natural gas equities? Anything you're doing there? Okay.
Not really.
Okay.
Southwestern's a tough chart.
Okay.
Range is a little bit better.
All
You
right.
see, the problem with this sector for me, this is a really volatile sector and it's great, but because I run stops, it's just tough for me. I've been stopped out before in this sector a lot and then
Yeah.
watched it go a lot higher. So
Right.
I do still have XOP, but XOP is at the line in the sand right here.
Yeah.
So the 200-day for me, I've been in this since last year, but I really want to, a couple of these markets are tough to get a read on right
Yeah.
now.
So the metals, the energy, copper doesn't look so good. The copper itself, maybe Freeport McMoran, is it reflecting it?
Yeah,
There's copper.
copper's tough. Freeport's
Looks like a
tougher.
big head and shoulders top.
It's
The copper.
it's a tough chart,
Yeah.
and the Freeport chart, this is one it came, and I've had Freeport for a while now, and it's starting to pull back here, but it held the 200-day. There's
Yeah.
a lot of support that's in here, but Freeport really needs to break out over 40, and if they could get it
Yeah.
over 40, but it's a tough market right now. These commodity stocks, they're just tough.
They're taking a breather.
They are. I just hope that they can hold up. AMD is a stock that I like. So
Okay.
AMD was in this wide base for a very
Yeah.
long time, broke out over 100. So
Sure.
I did not have it on the breakout, but I waited. I picked some up last week about 106 or so, right about where it is right now. But this big breakout over 100, if AMD, because it did a ton of volume, I mean that's some real volume that came in. And
Yeah.
AMD, even with this recent pullback in tech, it was up yesterday when Triple Q was down. But I think if they can keep AMD over 100, I think it's got some good potential.
You brought up Triple Q,
Yeah.
and have you seen the commercials on television where people are watching a sporting event or something, and all of a sudden someone pops in and goes, "Oh no, I own Triple Qs. I own the QQQs." So, kind of reminds me of a Barron's cover. That they're out there promoting Triple Qs on ads, and it's fashionable. I own Triple Qs. It's the future of everything, and kind of reminds me of kind of a contrarian thing that they're promoting the Qs up here. How the Q
Sure.
Here are the Qs. Yeah, you'll like them as long as they hold above 344,
Yeah, and
357.
and I'd like to see them hold the 50-day, for
Yeah.
a shorter term position. But I think the key line in the sand there, just by looking at the chart, really 340.
Prior high. Yeah.
340, 345, somewhere in this neighborhood.
Have you seen that commercial, Larry?
I don't think I have.
Okay, you'll notice it
I
now.
yeah,
that I brought it up.
I probably have it. That's not as good as
I
the
think they advertise it if you watch CNBC or CNN or anything. It's like, to be cool, you have to own the cues. So
gotcha.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
So some nice looks there, Larry. I want people to be able to check you out. People that are listening now and listen later, so they could find you here.
yep. So on Twitter, it's at LMT978, and then my website is bluechipdaily.com. And then I've got, if you want to go through and see, the posts that I make for members, what my technical analysis is behind it, things like that. This is really the meat and potatoes as far as my trend analysis and what I do.
Okay. So Larry, since I've been talking to Larry, has been long and right a lot of things. So if you're interested in equities, the blue chip, what's it called, the blue chip indicator or
Blue Chip Daily.
daily? Okay,
Yeah, Blue Chip
so
Daily.
blue chips are better than red chips, right?
I think the red chips, I think overseas, the red chips are the big ones.
Oh, okay.
I think I haven't gambled overseas, but I think the red chips in Asia, I think I could be wrong, so I don't want to sound like a dummy.
Okay.
But
And you wanted to get what? Is this Seagate or
yeah,
C
see,
Limited?
so this is C Limited. They're based out of Singapore. And if you look, this is really, so I own C. And to me, because everyone's focused on Alibaba and JD and Baidu, and these stocks are just really
Yeah,
they're
crazy.
really bad uptrends.
Yeah.
And I'm out of all those stocks, but I'm still holding C. And if you look, they're right next door in Singapore, but
Okay.
it's a strong chart. I think they put up 150% revenue growth. It's a big, so if someone was looking for that corner of the market, I think C is the strong name there.
How about one look at Taiwan Semiconductor, which a lot of people are complaining about it being heavy, and there's a breakdown.
And I looked at this yesterday. That's cautionary. That break below the 200 day.
Yeah.
Taiwan said, and there's a lot of things going on. I know there's a lot of political things that are going on. There's a shortage, but in either case, under that 200 day, for me, that's the big red flag.
Okay. Well, another great interview, Larry.
Dale, I always appreciate it.
Yeah, so very nice to have you. Thank you for having a giving spirit and bringing your hard work to us, the F.A.C.E community. And as always, Larry, I root for you and your subscribers to clean up
Thank
in
you.
the days and weeks ahead, buddy.
Dale, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I love our interviews always.
All right, well, we're going to do it again.
Great. I'm ready.
So thank you, my trading warrior brother. Everyone's thanking you. Laura's thanking you. Jorge, everyone's thanking you. Check it out. You have any kind of trials for your newsletter or no?
We did one. We did one a couple months ago, the first time ever. What I'll do is, if any of you or anyone that's listening right now, if they just send me an email on my contact page on the website.
Yeah.
If they send me an email and say, "Hey, I heard you on Dale," I'll send them a 30-day free trial.
Oh, what a nice thing. Okay, so
Yeah.
Christmas comes early from Larry Tentarelli. If you want a 30-day trial, just go to his website and say that you saw him on Face, and
we'll send them out.
Check him out for a month.
Yeah, we'll send them out the link right away.
Well, thanks for your generosity, Larry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale. My pleasure.
Good hunting, brother.
You too, my friend.
All right, so that's a wrap, everyone. See you tomorrow. And remember, don't just count your equities and your issues and your barrels and your bullion and your crypto. Count your blessings, and good hunting the rest of the day. You could be with the team on Morning Edge as a member in 15 minutes. That's a wrap for us. Adios, everyone. See you, Laura, Richard, Ingmar, AJ. Take it easy.